Hello, let's derive a compensated demand curve graphically. First, what is a compensated demand curve? It shows the quantity demanded for a good changes when the price changes, holding utility constant. This demand curve captures the substitution effect of a price change, also called the Hicksian demand curve. In contrast, an uncompensated demand curve shows the quantity demanded for good changes when the price changes. This demand curve captures both the substitution effect and income effect of a price change. This demand curve is also known as an ordinary demand curve or Marshallian demand curve. All right, so on the right we have a consumer maximizing utility. Consumer's getting on her highest indifference curve possible given the budget constraint. And as we can see, the consumer is buying 4 units of good X. And we're going to call this point A. So our goal here is to graphically derive a compensated demand curve. At point A, the utility maximizing point before the price change, the price ratio is PXA divided by the price of good Y, P subscript Y. And that also represents the slope of the budget line. So the price ratio, the price of good X divided by the price of good Y, is the slope of the budget line. So the indifference curve is tangent to the budget line here at point A. And therefore we can conclude at the price of PXA, the quantity demanded for good X is 4. We have 1 point on the consumer's compensated demand curve. Now we're going to bring our attention here to point B. Suppose the price of good X increased so that the new budget line is tangent at point B at the price ratio PXB divided by the price of good Y. The price of good Y didn't change. The price of good X increased. And again, the whole idea of the compensated demand curve is we're holding utility constant. So we're just pivoting the budget line. In this case, we're making it steeper because the price of good X increased. And at this new tangency here at point B, the quantity demanded for good X is going to be 2 units. This will be a point on the compensated demand curve for good X. And now we're going to bring our attention to point C. Suppose the price of good X decreased so that the new budget line is tangent at point C at the price ratio PXC divided by the price of good Y. At a price of PXC, the quantity demanded for good X is 8. So once again here, the idea is the price fell, and we're going to take away income from this consumer. You're going to take away enough income so that the consumer is still on the same indifference curve. And so when the new budget line is tangent to this indifference curve, the original indifference curve, at this new lower price for the price of good X, we have another point here, point C, that will represent a point on the consumer's demand curve, compensated demand curve for good X. So putting all this information together, the price of good X and the quantity demanded of good X at each one of those prices, and just plotting those points. This is a compensated demand for good X.